anybody can get started with activity. It's about starting really small, thinking about how we can build in movement every day and building up from there. So it doesn't have to be a big daunting piece of exercise that you're aiming for. You know, we have guidelines that are targets that we want people to aim for, but especially if you've got lower mobility, it's about starting some things maybe in the chair and movements you've got to do anyway. So if you can practice movements you need every day, then that can be useful and keep things functional. So reaching up if you've got to hang up the washing, reaching down to each foot because you've got to put your shoes on and tie your laces up, and practice those movements that you've got to do anyway as a starting point. One of the things we were just talking about in a talk was maybe using a bit of a structure. So sometimes I like to use something called a tabata, which is a piece of music that's 4 minutes long. You can find tracks online, and there's timing that is spoken out loud on the track, and they get you to work hard for 20 seconds, have 10 seconds rest, and then you're going to do another movement for 20 seconds, 10 seconds rest. You could alternate 2 movements, and the whole song goes on for 4 minutes. And I really like encouraging the people I work with to practice a movement they need in everyday life, or a fitness type movement, punching out. It could be kicking a foot forwards, any gentle movements in the chair, swinging the arms, something like that. Do one of those movements for 20 seconds, pause, and then the song's going to tell you to go again, and then you can do a different movement for 20 seconds. Now that can be in standing, it can be small movements, it can be bigger, faster movements if you're trying to build up fitness. But it's quite a nice structured way to build in 4 minutes of activity to your day. But sometimes people with MS like working in these kind of high intensity interval training ways, because you get a little rest and then you do something else, get a little rest. So it means that you're not trying to keep going for a really long time. So I really recommend a tabata as a nice way of using some music to get you motivated, having a manageable chunk of exercise, and then you could build up from there, maybe alternating different movements over more than one tabata in a day if you can. I also really like using games. So if there's a game you like playing or something you haven't tried before, then it's sometimes a nice way of getting you moving. It doesn't have to be with children in the family. If you've got other people around or friends that you can do, that's fine. But I like using a Velcro dartboard or some suction darts that you have to throw and try and get onto another suction dart that you can put on a table or a window. Nice way of getting the competition going. So anything where you've got to get some points, go against somebody, just small movements, doesn't have to be for any set amount of time, but anything like that where you're doing a physical movement, but where probably you're going to get distracted by your high score and whether you can beat your spouse or somebody else that you're spending some time with, then that's that little bit of extra movement in the day as well. I think we've got to think about inactivity as being a negative thing. So all of us have got times in our life where we're inactive for a long chunk of time, and it's not good for our bodies. Our bodies are designed to move. So even just straightening one leg, pushing your arms up towards the ceiling, or standing up for a few seconds when you've done a stint of sitting, it activates the muscles involved in that movement. Just a short amount of activation helps the metabolism in those muscles, keeps those muscles moving and awake and alive. So it's not necessarily all about strength training or keeping going for a long time. Just moving when you've been sitting is really important at a cellular level, but also it helps our muscles, helps our mood, helps us with any aches and pains. Being still for a long time is not how our bodies are designed to be. So every 20 minutes, half an hour, we should be doing some sort of movement. It might be rolling the shoulders, turning the head, anything that might relieve some of those areas especially where you feel you might be sitting in a certain posture. As soon as we start talking about it, we all start doing a little bit of movement. So anything to bring you away from any sustained postures. We tend to sit to one side or lean on one arm of the chair, have our head tilted, maybe we're watching TV slumped, or on our computer with our chins poking out. So trying to come away from the posture that you generally are in and just have a good move. It might be put some music on and do a little dance, a little shake, a little boogie. It might be that you have a nice stretch, anything. You can do it in the chair, But anything where you've been slumped, try and move in the opposite direction. Anything where you've had your chin forwards, try and bring it back in. So try and move away from the position you've been in for a long time. And ideally, we do that every half an hour or so. But that's easier said than done. Some people use alarms or a little post-it note on their computer to remind them of that. But it's the staying still for a long time, which is what we want to come away from. Once you've got used to that, you can start building in the slightly more active chunks of time as well.